Yeah, so Atlanta Falcons, what are they losing? Asante Samuel, Tony Gonzalez, a few offensive linemen. Shocking. The Falcons' season last year was really shocking, and I think the injury bug just hurt them a little bit. I think Roddy White and Julio. Crap, sorry about that. Um, Julio Jones going down is just not. It was just bad timing for them. So I think in terms of doing what they should do is keep the same team you've got because it's an excellent one. Just try to fill the gap with Tony Gonzalez. Find a decent tight end. Andrew Corliss, who we've talked about, is okay. Don't go stretching for Jimmy Graham. The only team that really should worry about Jimmy Graham, I think, is he's an out of world talent, but the only team that really needs to worry about him is the New Orleans Saints, and I'll talk about that in a second. But again, Andrew Corliss, just a decent receiving tight end that can complement the excellent play of Julio Jones and Roddy White and Matt Ryan. I almost said Matt Flynn, but no, Matt Ryan. And they also need a good running back. Steven Jackson was done. We all could pretty much tell that. If they hit a home run with Michael Turner in 2008, they found a young running back who didn't have a lot of wear and tear. And so finding somebody just like that would be an excellent strategy for them to consider. And Toby Gerhart from the Minnesota Vikings is an excellent choice. The dude runs like a madman whenever he's in the game. And quite honestly, I would suggest any team in the NFL that's looking for a running back to get him because he's somebody that can do whatever you want. Ben Tate would also be a good option, but he's injured all the time. So Atlanta Falcons, find a good running back, replace Tony Gonzalez. Those are your priorities. Carolina Panthers. Good team last year. I think they went 12-4. Not a lot of problems, except they just could not get past the San Francisco team. What the biggest loss I think is Jordan Gross, who's their left tackle. He'll be retiring. Lucky for them, there's a lot of good left tackles. There's Shanae Vernier from the Oakland Raiders that might be available. Eugene Monroe from the Ravens and formerly the Jaguars is going to be available. Brandon Albert is possibly a trade option for them. I think just getting that offensive lineman will shore up the rest of the offensive line that played pretty well last season. And finally get Brendan LaFell back. He's a good receiver, and I'd pay if you can get him for cheap. That'd be really good. New Orleans Saints. They're losing a few guys like Roman Harper, Jonathan Vilma, but that's okay. I think it's time for them. They can really fill those positions easily in the draft. As I mentioned before, the biggest problem for them is the fact that Jimmy Graham's not coming back. Let me say this: Jimmy Graham. Drew Brees makes that offense, but Jimmy Graham is possibly the most important player outside of Drew Brees to that organization. So you got to get him back. You got to get the money for him. You franchised him, but you just got to get him some money. So you got to talk to Drew Brees. Who else is being paid a lot? Marquise Colston, Jabari Evans, their guard. You just got to talk to people and restructure some contracts and do it with, if you guys do this, we'll get Jimmy Graham and make that really the priority of your offseason because he will keep that team going. And if not, Drew Brees is the type of guy. If you just don't feel like that's the case, then I would suggest making just putting anybody there because Drew Brees can make anybody good. The only problem is Jimmy Graham's great, and you want to keep a guy like that in your offense for a long time. So find a way to keep Jimmy Graham in New Orleans. That's what I would suggest. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ooh, they're a team that needs a lot of overhaul. Doug Martin is going to be a lot better. He's going to be a lot more healthy. Mike Williams is going to get healthy. Carlos Nix is going to get heavy. He's going to get healthy, which will be really good. And Mike Glennon showed some promise last year. I would continue sticking with him. And I would probably... What I would do for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is trade Darrelle Revis. He's an excellent player, and he's right now the second best cornerback in the league behind Richard Sherman. But I think he's not really set for that organization. Trade him to somebody, and you'll get some immense value back for him. Again, he's the second best cornerback in the league. He will shut down teams in press coverage. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, find a way to get rid of, find a way to get a lot of good value back for Darrelle Revis. That's what I'd suggest for you. Arizona Cardinals, they are in bad need of a good left tackle. And I've talked briefly about what the Carolina Panthers could do. Again, the options of Monroe, Albert, or Shane Vereen. I cannot pronounce the dude's name from the Oakland Raiders that's leaving, but he's an excellent candidate. And as far as I know, I think the Arizona Cardinals are already in in talks with some of those guys. So I think they're already doing what they need to be doing to set up their team for next year. St. Louis Rams, they're going to be losing Kellen Clemens and Cortland Finnegan. I don't really know Will Witherspoon. I don't really know any of these other guys. What they could do again is they could I think they need to they don't really have the option to go out and buy Ward and Bird because of salary cap conditions. I would suggest getting like Jeremiah Bell, who was an excellent player from Miami for years and now is being released by the Arizona Cardinals. Get him just to fill that hole and find a guy in the draft for the next few years. That's what I'd suggest for the St. Louis Rams. That's going to shore up their defense. Bell is an excellent tackler, and you'll get some good value out of that. For the San Francisco 49ers, you, as always, have almost sometimes got some of the best teams in the league, and I think they're pretty much set on every position. Offensive line, oh my gosh, great offensive line. It's the reason why that offense goes. Colin Kaepernick will set your team for a long time. Frank Gore's a good running back. A good situation, possibly, if you're thinking about getting some more running back depth, which is not always what they need. They've got LaMichael James and Anthony Dixon, but what's his name? Maurice Jones-Drew would be a really good, interesting pickup. He would make that offense so much better, which is a scary prospect if you're any team in the NFC West or the NFC or the NFL. That would just be scary because I can see Jim Harbaugh just molding and shaping his former foe in the Pac-12 into the running back that could really complement Frank Gore and LaMichael James' speed. Basically take over the role for Anthony Dixon, who'll be leaving this year. Great addition for the San Francisco 49ers. Seattle Seahawks, you won the Super Bowl. What do you need to do? They're losing a lot of people in free agency, it looks like, but a lot of them are wide receivers. It's not a problem. You could put any receiver in that offense and they're fine. In fact, I think that receivers like Golden Tate are not even really being used to their full effect because of that offense. So that's what is good for them. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking at anything here. Oh, they're going to be losing Michael Bennett. He's a good player. They probably need to try to re-sign him because he's been really effective for that team in just playing defensive line. I remember last year the Dolphins tried to get him, and it made me so angry when they weren't able to do it because he's just a good talent. He played excellent for them this year and set them up very, very well for their linebackers and safeties to come in and swoop and make a bunch of tackles. He's a good gap filler. So I'd get Michael Bennett and re-sign everybody that helped you win the Super Bowl because that team looks so dominant to everybody that was watching the Super Bowl. Poof, got through the NFC in about 35 minutes. Now I've got 8 minutes to talk about the AFC. Not even that because I've got to play Baba Yet too at the end of it. So I've probably got about 5 minutes, maybe. I don't know. AFC, whatever. This is the most important one. Buffalo Bills, you guys are screwed over. You guys are losing Jarris Bird, Dan Carpenter, not a big problem. Scott Chandler. Chandler was an excellent tight end last year. You need to find a way to get him back. Get Jarris Bird back. They're going to let him go. They got to do that. I've talked about him throughout the entire show, and he is essential to a team's defense. I would try to get him, try to hold on to him. If you can't do it, then I would get rid of Stevie Johnson and pick up LaFell or other just regular receivers for this year, so EJ Manuel can develop. Pretty much the thing about the Buffalo Bills is they don't need. They can win games with anybody, and they've done that year in and year out. And when I say win games, I mean win 6 games. There's nothing that the Bills can do this season to make themselves really a lot better, except for just re-signing some guys and trying to hit a home run in the draft when it comes to maybe getting a really good receiver. Their defense in general is pretty good, but their offense lacks from time to time. I would try to hit it big with a really good offensive tackle in the draft and a pretty good receiver maybe in the draft as well. That's what I do with the Buffalo Bills. Miami Dolphins, I'll save them for last because I just like them the best. New England Patriots, they're going to lose LeGarrette Blount, Julian Edelman. They got to sign Edelman as soon as possible because Edelman's pretty good. He's been pretty much their Wes Welker in training. The thing about the Patriots is that they can bring anybody into that team and they will be good. Literally, I mean, even Patriots are the ultimate stop for sagging veterans. So, I mean, Michael Vick would be great in their offense. I don't know how, but he would be good. They'd find a way to keep him in there. you could, I mean, name a big name player and put him in the New England Patriots, and they'll be okay. I'll just leave. I don't have a lot of time. I won't go into much more detail, but golly, I hate the Patriots. New York Jets. They're going to be losing Willie Colon, excellent player. Oh, the Jets. Oh, gosh. Kellen Winslow. They probably need to re-sign Kellen Winslow. They've got a lot of cap space to be active. If they, number one rule, release Mark Sanchez. He's dead weight. Release Antonio Holmes, he's dead weight, and release Antonio Cromartie. These guys are all dead weight, and that will free up your cap space even more. This opens up their door to get the Emmanuel Sanders that they could get, the Eric Deckers. Let me see who else they could get. They could get Michael Vick. He'd be pretty good. Actually, I don't like the idea of them getting Michael Vick. He'll just make what's his name, Geno Smith, feel bad. But pretty much the Jets have the opportunity to get anybody that they need. Their defense is fine. Find some offensive line stability and get Emmanuel Sanders. That will be good for them. Baltimore Ravens, number one thing, re-sign Eugene Monroe. He's an excellent player, and he can help them significantly. Dallas Clark, they need to get back. Ed Dixon, they've already re-signed. Michael Orr. Michael Orr struggled really bad, but I keep him, one, because he's just an awesome story for those of you who have read The Blind Side or seen the movie. Or his name is one that doesn't get thrown around. That gets thrown around the NFL quite a lot. He'd be a good player for them to go get. Let me see. Get a big receiver. Anquan Bolden was an excellent choice for that Ravens organization. And if they can get somebody big like him in the draft, he would make that team so much better because they very, very, very clearly felt that loss. Cincinnati Bengals. Who are you losing this year that you need to replace? Nobody really important enough. Anthony Collins is probably a good re-sign that you need to do. Josh McCown might be a really good backup this year for them. And they also need a really good defensive back. Charles Woodson would keep everybody in line. I think he's a free agent. This year, and he's versatile. And you can put him at safety or at cornerback, and he'll be just fine. So I'd say to him pick up. Cleveland Browns. Oh, I never know what you're doing. You're losing T.J. Ward. You got to get Ward back. He's an excellent player. Get a young running back, too. I think Gerhardt or Ben Tate. Again, Gerhardt is the best choice for the Browns in this scenario, but Ben Tate's a good option. Let me see. Rashad Jennings from the Raiders is going to become open, and Donald Brown is going to become open. Find a good running back, Cleveland, or a decent one, and you'll be okay. Steelers. Okay, you need to get better at offensive line. That's always the problem for the Steelers. I'd get a new offensive line coach. Let me see. USA Today doesn't say that you should pick up anybody, but I've talked about several good offensive tackles that are available, and there's a few guards whose names are just not really relevant because they play guard, and their names, of course, relevant to their mothers and wives, of course, but to most GMs, they're not so important because you really almost can plug anybody into the guard position and play them. So, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you just got to find some good guards to complement Mike Pouncey and the new offensive tackles that will be on. Houston Texans, excellent organization. They can afford to get rid of Garrett Graham and what's his name? Ben Tate. Houston Texans, number one thing, get Jadeveon Clowney. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Don't worry about getting rid of Matt Schwab or Johnny Manziel or Teddy Bridgewater. Get this guy because he will play well for you, and he'll make that defense one of the best things in the league. Indianapolis Colts. Colts are on the uptick. They said USA Today says that Ryan Grigson may be their most fearless general manager. Colts don't need to do anything, and they're not really